Hey, everybody. I'm very, very excited to have this man on the Ronline Report. I'm pretty sure this is his first appearance on the Ronline Report. Seven-time Olympia 212 champion, owner of the Dragon's Lair Gym, the happening gym in Las Vegas now, father of two, husband, living legend, James Flex Lewis. How are you?
Wow, thank you, Ron. What a great intro. Can I record that and press that every morning I wake up?
How about let's get ready to rumble? But yeah, man.
Thank you, Ron.
So happy to have you. Just to mention this briefly, I know you were back in the UK, and my condolences on your grandfather passing away recently. I know you had a more of a almost like a father-son relationship. He actually sort of raised you, didn't he? It was more than just, in America, a lot of us don't even know our grandparents. Like mine died before I was born, my grandfather. So how wasn't he instrumental in you sort of becoming a bodybuilder?
Well, my grandfather was, I'll take it a little bit from the beginning. When I was young growing up,
Yeah.
I always thought my grandfather was famous because he would walk down the street, everybody wave at him, beat the horn. He was kind of like a local legend, I guess the best term is. He taught me a lot about, I guess, investing in relationships. And he taught me a lot about, just being kind to people, treating people with respect. My grandfather's a very tough man, very tough man. And when, going through school, I went to a very rough school. I'd come back and I'd tell him the stories and, he'd listen because, he was a bit of a Jack the Lad himself back in the day. But he used to tell me kind of life's lessons, no matter how tough you think you are, there's always going to be someone tougher. Now, I was expecting the approval of, yeah, did you whip his ass or whatever else? And kind of give me a completely different perspective to my dad, right? So I had the best of both worlds. My father obviously was very involved with my upbringing, with the coaching and the rugby. And then my grandfather was the other fatherly figure that I learned the complete opposite that my father would teach. I learned about nature. I learned about kind of living off the land. My grandfather used to grow his own food, and he lived a completely different life than my father did. So two worlds kind of combined in, and I've got definitely the blood of my grandfather in my veins. He was a coal miner, blue collar. He survived two cave-ins. Two cave-ins. I mean, people passed away when he was pulled out of the mines, and a different life, right? Compared to back then, everybody's fucking soft. Let's be honest. Stories my grandfather used to say, like kind of off the cuff. I'd be like, "What the hell? Come on, the key." Anyway, yeah. But thank you for your condolences. It was obviously an emotional week. I kind of kept a little bit off the Instagram. A lot of people thought I was home, seeing family, but it was an emotional one, but one that we celebrated his life, and he lived one hell of a life. Let me tell you.
Yeah. How can I ask how old he was?
How old was my grandfather, babe? 88.
Okay, that's a good run.
Yeah.
I'd say it's a damn good run.
Yeah.
120 would be ideal, but 120 is a long time. So
the stories I know of him, put it like this: the stories I know of him, he's like all my friends will say he's crazy. But then the stories I don't know of him, you can imagine. So
yeah, I bet. I mean,
he lived a life. He lived a life.
So one of the biggest news stories of this year happened in May when you announced that you would be retiring. And sure. I'm sure there were a lot of factors that went into that. I mean, you could probably talk for hours, but what were the key points that led to that decision?
Bottom line was I obviously had to starve myself to get into the 212 class, right? For I would say 4 of the last 7 years. So then when I went into the open, the complete different mindset shift was then having to limit my food, even in the off season, to then force feeding myself. And I've had tremendous gut issues and digestion issues all over the years, as I've very well documented them. All my journeys. I've kind of never hidden away of any truths out there. I've kind of put them out there, not for any plan B, just transparency, right?
Yeah.
So going into the open, I had significant issues the first year where I was offered a special invite, and myself and Neil were talking about this yesterday, and we were about 16 weeks out, and like his own words were, "You was going to win that Olympia." And that was his own words yesterday. And listen, you know how Neil is.
Oh yeah.
But unfortunately, my gut and my mindset were on two different levels. You know, my mindset was I'm winning. My gut was telling me you can't even live life right now. You're living in misery. So I done all precautions to fix my gut. I hired 2 gut specialists. I went to Columbia Medellin to get stem cells in all body parts, including my stem cells for my gut. And I got on a little bit of a better track for a number of months. And then as soon as the increase of food started happening again, I was just looking at myself in the mirror, and pretty much I was telling myself, this is not life. You know, I was miserable. I was honestly, Ron, I put up with it for 2 years. And I can honestly, in my heart of heart, walk away knowing that I done everything. You know, people say they done everything. I fucking done everything in my power to stay in the game. I spent an absolute small fortune to see myself on the Olympia stage. And, you know, I thought it was God testing me, but I think the biggest sort of thing I took away with it was that there's other things that you need to focus on, Flex.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. But
Anyway,
I'm just curious, how much bigger do you think you needed to be? Because I remember seeing you, you know, 4 to 6 weeks out from the Olympia those last few years. To me, you had plenty of size for the open. You were probably like 230 and your condition was very, very close to contest condition. I didn't think you needed to be a whole lot bigger than you probably were starving yourself away from anyway. How much bigger were you trying to get?
I think I was very consistent on my weight, around about 240s. I went up in the 250s, but I felt very comfortable around 240s. But just when I say comfortable, you know, what I was doing to stay at that weight and just hold my weight was a lot of food. I process food like nothing other. You know, when I was in that mindset of training and shoveling food in my mouth, obviously it's a job. My mentality was strong. But in terms of what I wanted to get up to, I didn't have a fixed number on the scale. I've never had to do that other than make sure I don't go too heavy for the 212. Yeah. So it wasn't like I have to be, you know, the cliche bodybuilder. I have to be this heavy to be competitive. I was just organically letting my body fall into the next chapter. But I would have these incredibly consistent weeks and things were just clicking. And then I'd have the complete opposite where I wake up every morning nauseous, and that was my day. I'd wake up every single day. My wife is obviously sitting in front of me, and she knew what I had to do just to get through the day. And then, you know, if we're just focusing on the bodybuilding side of things, which I was able to do for a long time, it was just getting tremendously hard. But now adding the fact that I'm a dad, adding the fact that I've got all these businesses, and feeling the way I did, it was just a very tough task. Mentally, again, thank God I've got a very strong mentality, and I feel like I've gone through many adversities over the years. But this case was fight. Don't give up. And in the end, it was just like, I just can't do it. It was the nausea. The nausea really took me over the edge. I was just, for I'd say the first 6 hours of the day, I just had that nausea. But again, as soon as I stopped eating, the frequency and the consistency and the number of meals I was doing, that nausea went as fast as it would come on in the morning. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, as I said before, I'm very, very happy with what I've achieved in the sport. And I'm, in my heart of hearts, I don't have any regrets. I made the announcement. I'll stand by the announcement. You won't ever hear me teasing or saying I'm coming back. I'm an athlete that knows when I'm done. Now I've got other exciting and you know, other things that I'm working on in my life. So that focus that I had, that extreme, you know, relentless forward focus, is now on to other things that I'm excited to, you know, to be doing now.
Yeah, a lot of people thought it was your shoulder injury that was a big contributing factor. How long had your shoulder been bothering you, and was it actually, did you end up getting that completely resolved where it felt fine again?
My shoulder has probably been bad for about 7 or 8 years. Progressively got worse. Obviously, making the weight cut and grinding it out in the final stages when your tendons and ligaments are just so dry. Yeah, it was bad. The sleep at night was kind of the worst in all of it. You know, I could train around any injury, but when you're kind of having no sleep because of, you know, you nod off, I'd lie on the shoulder, then I'd fall asleep on this shoulder. So I will say this, and no plug, but BioAccelerator and Columbia Medellin, they done stem cells for me. Obviously, I've documented this for everyone who doesn't know, but I took a trip over to there about a year and a half ago, and incredible facility. They done stem cells in my shoulders, my knees, and my elbows, and I followed the doctor's orders to the T. I didn't know better. I wanted to. This was an investment. And again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the interview, where I spent an absolute small fortune trying to get back onto that Olympia stage. But the stem cells now have been so beneficial in my day-to-day life that, running around after my daughter and having to, pick up things whilst holding a baby with one hand. My knees are probably the best they've been in about 8 years.
Wow.
So yeah, that helped significantly. But going into this year's Olympia, my shoulders and my knees and my elbows weren't the main, I would say the main issue that held me back. I stuck to the doctor's orders. I took 3 months off the gym. That was the hardest thing ever. Wow. 3 months off, no training. I was obviously able to consume myself in building the Dragons less. There was a big portion of distraction.
Yeah. But
in terms of why I had to stop competing, it wasn't because of any injury. Fuck Ron. I came into this sport with, crippled from rugby, and I've been able to win and defend all these titles around the world with all these injuries. So I've never used injuries as a crutch, but as I said earlier, the guy was just, I would say to try and solve the issue of the gut whilst being in prep, you need a complete reset, which would take about 6 months plus just to get back that good culture in the gut that I've destroyed all these years from compounding foods and shakes and fruity flavors and all these good stuff over the years. But anyway.
Fruity flavors. That I didn't realize they were so bad for us. But you recently had your second child. So now you have a boy and a girl, which, that's, most people consider that the ideal family. I got the same setup. Would you consider that, your greatest achievement, your greatest accomplishment? Because that's forever. Your children are always going to be your children. Gyms can come and go, titles people forget about. But those kids, that's your legacy. Absolutely.
Keyword legacy. That to me, when I found my daughter, or when my wife was pregnant and we were expecting my daughter, that was a fifth gear, sixth gear that I never knew I had in my life. My mindset completely changed focus, because now I wasn't doing it for myself or for my wife and better in my life. I had to make sure that, my daughter's future was secured. And that's what I've been kind of working on the last 6 years prior to my second child. And I'm very blessed, mate, 2 months old now, and he's got a great set of forearms on him, and I think we're looking at the hair color, and I don't know if he's going to be a ginger, but ginger hair, blue eyes, it's a possibility. So
what about the calves?
Well, them calves is my son. You should see my daughter's calves.
I bet.
I don't want them to go too freaky though. I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, your calves insert right above your heel, literally like this close to your heel. So they probably got the same calves. So I know you have no regrets and everything, but selfishly, I wanted you in that Olympia. Everybody wanted you in that Olympia. I was bummed. I was really bummed. I know you got to do what you got to do. It's your life and everything, but would you still always wonder, how would I have done? Would I have won? Would I have been top 3? Would I have beat this guy? Would I have beaten that guy? How do you not let that run through your head?
Ron, I trained to be Mr. Olympia since I was 12 years old. So to make that decision was one of the hardest decisions I've had to do in my life. And the mental torment of making that decision was probably the hardest thing that I've had to also do. Every athlete's goal in life is to become a champion, right? Whether it's winning your pro card or going on to win a pro show. I was able to achieve that very, earlier on in my career. So, my next goal was then to become the champion of my class. And then the next goal was to become the first ever champ. That was my goal. Obviously I've got this guy right here, this painting on the floor that I just had done, because he's mentally, I surround myself with a lot of things that motivate me, and his storyline has been a big motivation for me in my life. But it was the whole champ thing, coming from nothing and proving to, you know, the world, but more so yourself, that this committed life that you've done, the sacrifice, you know, the things that you've had to kind of lose out on, was all worth it. So, and I can honestly say, I done everything in my power. I done everything in my power. I know, and that's why I know, Ron, that there's nothing else I could have done. As I said, I went through every single option to try and help me get on that stage, because I truly believe, and I'm not just saying this, I truly believe I could have won. And I'm not saying it now because it's after the fact, but if you don't believe that you can win, why the fuck are you competing? Seriously, it's like, I don't understand these athletes. It's like, oh, I want to, you know, place or do well. It's like, no, you train to win. Whatever happens on the day happens on the day. But, you know, if you don't believe and your team around you doesn't believe, you are all skewed in your drive and your focus. I truly believe that I could have done it wrong. I know what I look like. I got photos and got videos and stuff like that, or what I was looking and training like in the off season. So I can say in my heart of hearts that I don't have that woulda, shoulda, coulda. I really don't. I went through it. The mental aspect of things haunted me before I made the decision. So to give you more context, I made the decision 3 months before I made the decision to the world.
Okay.
And I had to live with it. So I told myself, once I started having these thoughts about retiring or trying to make it, you're not 100%. You're not going into the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. You're going in as a fucking 85%er or a 90%er, and that's not me. Every show I've ever competed in, regardless of injuries, I've always turned up. And when I couldn't even put in the biggest change in bodybuilding, the food, when I couldn't consume food, then I'm going to be not even a fraction of what my true self looks like. So when I've had the breaks, you know, I could have said, well, if I had the chance to take off and I was able to reset my stomach and I could have done this, I done it. And when I was resetting my stomach and I hired these gut specialists to work on this, that, and the other, I felt good. My digestion was great on the small frequent meals I was eating. But as soon as the bodybuilding meals kind of started kicking in, then it was a different story. And we even changed various different food quantities, various different foods that in potential that it could change, you know, the feeling I had. But unfortunately, my body just doesn't like food, you know. It is what it is. I don't have an appetite, Ron. I mean, my wife is sitting in front of me.
I remember.
Yeah. How often do you hear me say I'm hungry?
Yeah.
Once a month. There we go.
I remember you years ago telling me, you know, eating was the toughest part because you had to get all that food down, and it was a grind all the time. And I remember you said your metabolism was so fast that if you missed a couple meals, you used to drop like 5 pounds like that. Yeah.
And then you start stressing because you see, so perfect example, I would start stressing that my weight is low, which causes even a further issue, which knocks on. So, you know, bottom line is, Ron, I've been very blessed to come to a country, chase my goal, achieve that goal, raise the bar up even further, achieve more stuff, open doors for myself, and open doors for bodybuilding. And that's what I really am in my career right now. Moving to Vegas has been an incredible, you know, move for myself and my family. And obviously what you guys see on social media is one thing. What really happens in silence is another. I move kind of in silence and a lot of stuff, but I still have to do my duties of promoting the sport on Instagram and stuff like that. But Vegas is a networker's paradise. It's a business networking, you know, it's one of the reasons why we moved here. You know, myself and my wife moved everything from Florida to Vegas to put all cards in, no pun intended, all in. Yeah. And, you know, the belief system we had for opening up this gym was, you know, one where people can have that vision I had, like when I came from Wales to Gold's Gym Venice for the first time. It's that experience from the first time you walk in, from meeting my staff to then, you know, the graffiti on the wall, the athletes that train you. And I've said this many times before in other, you know, social media outlets. The first time you come here is kind of for a fan. It's very, you're in awe, and I guess it's like Toys R Us, right, for kids, for bodybuilders. But you start seeing the details on your second time. There's so much details here, just like bodybuilding, right? And that's the kind of the correlation. Bodybuilding is all about details. But when you take a big step back and you're seeing it from the stage, everything comes together. So if you had, you know, a few hours just to see what we've done here, there's so many hidden secrets and hidden things that we've done in the gym. So that's, I have fun, you know. I never wanted to be a gym owner. Organically, this has turned into what it is. And again, I don't want to I don't know if that's a question you wanted to ask with the Dragons Lair.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was my next question, but yeah, because I wanted to know, because you had the first Dragons Lair was Boca Raton, right, years ago. Yeah, it was a private gym. It was, I don't know, like 1/10 the size of this. At that time, when you had that gym, were you already envisioning someday in the near future, I'm going to have a Dragons Lair that's going to have all this stuff? Is the gym that you're in now basically what you were envisioning years ago when you were in Florida?
Never.
No.
I never had any intention of being a gym owner. The sole reason why I created the Dragons Lair was for me to have zero distraction and focus on the Olympia. The mindset that I brought from into my prep is one of a boxer or an MMA guy, where you literally go into camp somewhere. So unfortunately for me, you know, South Florida was very good for me, but the gyms, because it's a fitness hotbed there in Florida, every time I would go to the gym, you know, there would be people waiting, especially in the Olympia time. And the gym owner of one of the gyms I was training at done 2 come and meet Flex tomorrow flash messages. So I turn up one day and there's all these people waiting for me, and obviously I play the role, but I was like, this has to stop. So after doing that, I decided to open up this gym, and I'm cutting a long story short here. And what happened was, over time, everybody wants something that they can't get, right?
Yeah.
So imagine now you had, you know, all the money in the world, you could get anything you want. But if you had all the money in the world and then I told you, hey, you can't get this car, you'd be like, no, I want that car. So we had people that were trying everything to get into the gym. I mean, I was offered stupid money just to be part of this culture that I was creating at the gym. But this was a private facility. I had no interest in bringing people in. And I brought these guys in, like Rafael Brandel, John De La Rosa, Frank McGrath, to be in and around me for camp. Zero distractions. I could film. And as I said, over time, and through the other VIPs that have come over there, from UFC fighters and boxers, et cetera, people started coming and knocking the door with their families on the way to Disneyland, detoured on the way from Miami, drove, and I heard all these stories, and I was like, I'm sorry, guys, the gym is not open to the public. But I was, you know, I played the part. I let them come in and take pictures and stuff. But when I think the last time was I had Raphael and I had Kamal. Kamal obviously had a few fans that came over, but Raphael had fucking troops of people that would come, couldn't speak a word of English, knocking the door. You have Brazilians are very passionate fans, crying, everything else. So myself and my wife during COVID were like, we got something here, but I don't think Florida is the place to you know, boost the vision. So during COVID, myself and my wife flew out to Vegas. We kept it completely off the gram. We checked around, and it was me that was kind of dragging my feet. My wife is born and raised in Florida, so she was kind of looking for a new, you know, kind of a new venture and a new state that we could do stuff in. She knows the value of Las Vegas for myself as the brand, and we were coming back and forth so much. She was like, listen, babe, we got so much opportunity on the West Coast. Let's look into it. So we flew out the first time. The second time is when I was convinced, and then I ended up finding this property I'm in right now. But at that point in time, houses were moving so fast, not as fast as it became, but it made me nervous. So kind of the pressure of like, hey, listen, we got to move fast in this. What was there, because we actually bought our house sight unseen.
Oh boy.
We had a fucking YouTube, a real estate agent filming our house. Obviously, I've sent some of my friends over to check it out too.
Yeah.
But that's the world we were living in. These houses were literally, by the time that we had came to Vegas, jumped on a plane, 5 hours back, there was 2 houses under contract. So we were like, holy shit, we have to move on this. And I found the building, walked into one side of the building. I asked what was next door, and I said, I take it both.
Wow.
And then my mindset started changing then to be, creating the Dragons Lair. Sorry, man, I got itchy nose.
Yeah.
Creating the Dragons Lair it is today. So my vision was put into reality. I have the Boca Raton location in mind, but basically amped up tenfold. So all graffiti colors, it has to be Instagrammable from every angle. So if you're turning, looking straight, behind, left, right, whatever angle you take a photo at in my gym, it's the Dragons Lair. And then in terms of the details, I was saying I hired a pretty, I would say, famous graffiti artist. He came in and we started working on the design of the Dragons Lair. We put it in the CAD, we seen it, and I signed off on it, and I kind of give him the free reign of spray, and I told him to keep the dragon within these parameters. I came back the next day, that thing is 10 times bigger than I told him. So I fell in love with it though, because I was trying to keep it, PG, but I was like, fuck, this is Vegas, let's go. So we've created this energy which comes from the artwork, the details that are on the machine. I don't know if you've seen this, Ron, but in my gym we have the pieces are all custom sprayed.
Wow.
So not the cliche reds, blacks, and stuff like this. There's this spraying technique that we do at Arsenal Strength, which has been just for it's a custom one-off. It looks like dragon scales.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There's a chemical reaction. It's very hard to do. If you mess up, you have to sandblast the piece all the way back down. So my staff were not happy with me the first couple of times we done it, but now the whole gym is as I said, all in the details.
Yeah, right on. Oh man, I can't wait to go there.
There
Okay,
you
I'm
go.
gonna back up or take a left turn, however you want to look at it. Once a guy retires from competition, now there's an expectation, especially now with everything that's been going on, that you have to downsize. You can't weigh, what are you, like 240 now? 230?
Keep going. I'll tell you at the end.
280, 320, 450. Okay, I'm gonna take my best guess. 226.
210.
Wow. Okay, so you've already downsized a little bit. Okay, so nobody needs to make a video saying Flex Lewis needs to downsize, or else he's gonna. So that, I mean, was that tough for you to drop a little bit of the mass that you took all those years to build?
So great question. Yes, it's hard. I'm not gonna lie. I'm probably eating about 3 meals a day right now, maybe 4. My cardio is up there, and I've been purposely working on downsizing. Purposely. The life that I lived from 19 years old to present day was all about size. And during the time frame of myself focusing on becoming the best bodybuilder in the world, things like flexibility and daily movement were gone to shit. Now, prior to that, I was a rugby player since 6 years old. I run for my country. I've done all kinds of athletic endeavors, but when we get into bodybuilding, you kind of taught moving around is going to keep you small. It's like, so for the whole time frame that I was bodybuilding, I really and truthfully wasn't working on my flexibility as I should have done. So my goal is right now is to get quite low in weight, which I'm there, but I'm moving and working on a lot of different projects right now. And then my goal is to grow into this new flexibility, movability, all that stuff, whilst, keeping the new things that I've been working on at the forefront. So my training has changed, most definitely. I'm obviously not putting, you know, the numbers on the bar and, you know, on the machines as I was once doing.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's all for purpose. You know, I feel like some bodybuilders, when they retire, they're still trying to chase that look, and they're still trying to chase what I feel people are pressured to have you continue to look.
Right.
And you know, now that I've been through them chapters in life, and I always was wearing a hoodie. I'd always train in a hoodie. I was always kind of, you know, overly dressed in a sense, but that's how I like to train. I wasn't doing it for the gram. I was doing it because that's how I like to train. This is how I like to feel. Obviously, some people walk into the gym in a tank top. That's not me. There's a process for me to mentally get into the way I feel. And once I'm warmed up with all the injuries I had, I'll take my hoodie off. I'm in a t-shirt. But as soon as I lost weight, the first thing that I done is I started wearing t-shirts all from day one.
Wow.
Because, you know, I was wearing the gorilla mask, right, for all these years. Where
The gorilla
I
suit.
was
Yeah.
the gorilla. I'm sorry, I was wearing the gorilla suit for all these years, and for me to kind of continue that mindset of living up to the expectations of what people have already seen me for all these years is kind of a bad and a bad route to go. There's a new, you know, new style. There's a new purpose right now in my life, and obviously, you know, bodybuilding and getting huge isn't part of that, but bodybuilding is part of my life. I'll always be a bodybuilder. That's never going to change. But I wish I could tell you what I'm doing, but unfortunately I can't, right? Because I got an NDA on it.
Okay.
But let's say that I'm working on something that will elevate bodybuilding and other things. And that's kind of what I've been working on too, Ron. I've been doing so many business endeavors. Like I've been doing a lot of speaking with some great, you know, business entrepreneurs. I've been invited into new circles through all the businesses that I've been doing. But what blew my mind, and I wasn't really expecting it, was when I do kind of these talks and seminars and stuff on the business front, I get introduced as Flex Lewis, entrepreneur, business owner, same time Mr. Olympia champion, not the other way around.
Right.
So there's it's cool to now move into these new arenas and be known kind of as maybe as the different hat, you know.
Speaking of hat, I mean, how many bodybuilders get sponsored by a major company like Monster Energy Drink? I can't think of anyone that had a mainstream sponsor like that, like you do. Can you? No.
No. Rain is obviously the sister to Monster, but obviously there's some bodybuilders over there, guys like Kai and Bradley Martin. But I am the only bodybuilder, and they told me I'm the only one and ever will be. That's what they said. So wow. I kind of pridefully, to be honest, Monster, when they started following me, they followed me for a year and a half. And now they can tell me that they watched everything I done, how I walked, talked, acted, what I posted, politically, my beliefs. And then after that, they obviously offered me a contract. And you know, I kind of told them when I signed them, 6 years I've been with them now. I told them, you know, is this performance-based, i.e., is this going to be there only if I compete? They reply back to us, we're going to give a shit if you compete or not.
That's awesome.
But invested in the brand.
Yeah,
and that was very nice to hear, because unfortunately with the bodybuilding contracts, it's all based on, you know, what you do and how you compete and where you place. And, you know, I think that investing in the athlete itself is kind of something I do personally with the businesses I do. You know, you want an athlete that bleeds the brand, can walk, talk, and act like a champion, even if they're not a champion at all times. And, you know, I'm very blessed to say now with Monster sponsoring me, it's opened up some tremendous doors for me in so many different arenas, you know, even with the UFC, which I'm heavily involved with.
Yeah.
I started going to the UFC with Monster. And now I go to the UFC because the UFC called me. So it's wild. I think I've gone full circle.
Yeah, you've been ringside at a lot of those title fights, haven't you?
Yeah, that's the only way I sit. No,
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
diva. I'm like, if I don't have ringside, I'm not coming.
I mean, I've seen pictures of you with Dana White and other big shots. So yeah, you must be sitting right up there.
Yeah, Dana trains here. Hunter Campbell, who is the also a man in charge there, trains here. There's a lot of UFC guys that come here train, and I've got that to me, MMA, not just UFC. MMA is probably next to rugby my favorite sport that I follow consistently. You know, with football and baseball and stuff, I never grew up in it, so you know I understand the game now that I've been here, obviously since I was 23. And I've got friends who play and have played and train here that play. I get invited to games and stuff like that. But if you was to give me the choice of watching a fight or a football, I'd always go. If somebody said to me a Super Bowl and a massive pay-per-view, I will always choose MMA. People might mock me on that, but it's been part of my life now as that outside of bodybuilding, right? That has been part of my life as that sport that I would always watch 24/7, whatever. If it came on, I'm watching it. And as the years have gone on and investment in people and relationships have taken forefront, you know, these guys that I met years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago in Florida, around the world, are now champions. No names mentioned, but you guys can read through the lines if you understand who I'm talking about. But these guys were kind of sleeping on the sofa when I met them, and now they're, you know, front cover of ESPN, Sports Illustrated. But again, they know that I remember them as what they were. You know, other than that, they could walk into a room and, you know, peacock, but they won't do that with me because, you know, it's a different relationship we have. And it's nice to know that they knew what I was and I knew where they were. And I'm proud of all these guys and what they've achieved. And, you know, as I said, this is the town for any type of fight. This is fight capital, you know? So it's always guys coming into the gym every single week, every single day.
Cool. I'm going to bring it back to bodybuilding just for the last couple questions. A lot of people don't realize you did compete in the open shows a few times, but it was earlier in your career before you were, you know, your physique was in its final form.
Yeah.
I always wondered, why didn't you jump in a couple open shows later on, especially, you know, when you had that physique at 225, 230, I think that would have been extremely competitive. You could have done an open show and then still done the 212 Olympia like a month later. Did that ever cross your mind?
No, because my focus is 212. My goal was always to be a 212 athlete and leave a legacy in the 212. And if I was to, you know, sprinkle a little bit of compete in the open here and there, it would dilute my overall vision. My goal was to do everything in the 212, create a legacy. And obviously my goal was to become the greatest and then leave that legacy in the 212 to then focus my mindset and into the open class. So I think that could I have done it? Absolutely. But as I'm so mindset driven, you know, my goal is to win any show, every show I've ever stepped foot on. I train for that purpose, but I'm training to be a 212. I'm sacrificing muscle to do so. So that's not, that wouldn't be a real, it wouldn't be a real view of what I should have looked like if I was to compete with a 20-week prep going into it, if you understand what I'm saying, because I was 202 back then when I competed in the, and I was 192 in Spain. I placed third. It was Dexter, Victor, Ronnie Raquel.
Wow.
That beat me. That's the Arnold Classic Spain. And I competed also, I think the year before that, and I came third in the Spanish show too. So Spain has done me well. I'm not gonna lie. But
and that was when you were like low 190s. You weren't even, you put on another 20 pounds of muscle after that. So man.
192 on. Yeah.
So my last question for you, we just talked about 212 legacy and you being the greatest 212 champion of all time. I think your legacy's safe because since you retired with your 7th win in 2018, we've had Kamal, Sean, and Derek. We've had 3 different men in 3 different years.
Yeah.
Do you think we're ever going to see someone tie your record, beat your record? I mean, maybe it'll be 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, but where do you see the state of the 212 division? Do you see anyone that has that potential to be the superstar of the division the way that you were?
I think the only person that can really do that is Sean Clarita because of the weight aspect. It's very difficult to reinvent your way when you're at the top of the weight. Coming in at 210, 210 and a half, 211, 211.8, 211.10, knowing that an off season doesn't exist. You know, everybody wants to see change. Everybody wants to see this. Holy shit, what did you do in the off season? I didn't have that. I trained with the mentality of making that impact, but ultimately I had to over diet all that muscle off when I stepped on stage. So the record, again, when I was competing, I didn't have this mindset of setting this massive number up, and, you know, having athletes who come after me chase the number. It wasn't in my mindset. I was driven to win, defend. The mentality that I had looking back right now was incredibly focused, and I can honestly talk as if it's a different person because I lived looking back. I felt like these years have just gone. I feel it's like a kind of a dream, you know, in some aspects, because I was just I win, I defend, and then I was on the road for the Grand Prix, and then I'd have this downtime, and then come FIBO. Mentality was FIBO was always the first biggest show for me that kickstarted me. Of course, you can say the Arnold Classic and stuff, but when I went to FIBO, the madness of international fans flying all over was that, okay, the Olympia is here, let's do it again, you know. So I understand the number. I understand it would take a very special person to beat that number, only because, not because of me saying, you know, I looked a certain way. It's more so down to the fact that it's 7 years of recreating your weight. And it also falls into the amount of weight you still have left to fill that 212 number. I was hoping, you know, and he still might do it, Derek Lunsford would defend that title. You know, that Derek right now is probably the most impressive pro on the circuit, to me, personally. You know, obviously I've competed against him, I think 3 times. Yeah. You could see that this kid was special, you know. And I believed he was going to win the 212. I also thought that he was going to be that guy to push that number, you know, that chase for the 7. Yeah. But his body was just so fresh. He doesn't want to be a 212. You know, again, I would love to see him defend the title. My mindset is, and this is not a knock on Derek, because he would do incredibly well in the open class, but my mindset on everything I've ever done in life is to call yourself a champion, you have to defend. Or, you know, you could win and a one-off, you know, let's take MMA, for example, right? Aljamain Sterling illegally kneed Peter Yan, and he won the belt when he took the illegal knee. That guy got discredited. He was told that he's not the real champ. So then when the rematch came, he beat him again. So now he's champ, right? But he went through a lot of shit to get there. And obviously this is no correlation to Derek, but nobody would accept his belt until he won it.
Wow.
I've seen it on a lot of platforms where people say, oh, he was a fluke. Take, for example, the first year I won the 212. Everybody said I won the 212 because David Henry wasn't there and Kevin English wasn't there. So the second year for me was probably one of the most rewarding storylines because I was able to get in front of these guys and beat them. And, you know, that was the year that everybody was going to come and beat me, you know. So, and I've heard that every year too. But whatever Derek decides to do, you know, he has my full blessing that, you know, in terms of support, blessing and support.
Yeah. Because
I know what it takes to get into that weight. It's a fucking number on a scale, and your body looks a certain way. It's clicking, everything's on point. but then it says that you have another 20 pounds, another 15 pounds, 10 pounds, whatever it is to come off your frame. And you damn well know, unfortunately, the best version of yourself is never going to be there. So I understand his conundrum right now and his issues in terms of, you know, what I do I go right or left? And personally, you know, I would love to see him on that open stage as much as I'd love to see him in the 212. And I honestly, even Stevens, if he makes that 212 class, I got more respect for him than ever, because right now he looks like an absolute mutant, you know. So it's going to be very difficult. So I feel if anything, if he is to get a special invite for the Olympia, then obviously we'll get to see the best version of him, because unfortunately in the 212 we won't be seeing the best version of him. He would be only doing it to defend. Yeah. So that's kind of my I mean,
you had to drop, how much muscle? 10, 15 pounds of muscle every year to make weight?
Yeah.
With him, it's probably 20, 25, maybe more pounds he would have to drop. Pure muscle. I don't think his best look would be as a 212, because how do you take 20 plus pounds of muscle away?
Yeah.
In addition to all the fat, and still have your best look? It just doesn't sound right.
No, his legs are going to go because of all the cardio he has to do. You know, he's going to burn himself up. And again, I've been there. I know the pain. 6 weeks out, my body was 224. I'm fucking ready, back to front. And then the scale is telling me, yep, that's not you, bro. You've got to keep going. And thankfully, I'm very blessed to have Neil Hill in my corner, who, you know, acts as a, you know, not only a coach, but my psychologist at times too. And obviously I got my wife that's sitting in the office too. And them two tag teaming on, you know, my prep and mentally getting in, because man, it was, you know, there was some rough fucking days. Like I literally was talking about this yesterday, is why I'm so fresh in my mind. It's easier to kind of talk and say, oh, we, you know, I done this, I done that. But the day and starting it, you know, was incredible in some days, where I literally would get up, didn't sleep because of prep, you know, prep sleep.
Yeah.
And I just remember days where I'd be putting my socks on and I'd be talking to myself like some mental case. I'd be telling myself how much I want this, you know, what am I doing to better myself? And, you know, this is for the family. And I literally coach myself to get through the days. And then when you think about it, you know, if you just focus day to day, and you're just giving your best version of that every single day, you know, the outcome was the outcome. But I can say in my heart of hearts, in my daughter's life, I never skipped a cardio session. I never skipped a meal. I never done anything that wasn't on my plan that Neil had given me. And that's why I, in the big outlook of life, I can say that, you know, I was a true student to my coach. I listened to everything he done. I didn't know better. I didn't give myself cheat meals. In fact, Neil had to call my wife, Deb, right? Mm-hmm. He called my wife when we were at restaurants on the cheat day to take a fucking photo to prove that I was eating what he told me to eat. And yeah, I know it sounds madness, but you know, I would normally cheat on sushi, and he was like, that's too fucking clean. You got to put some calories in you, you know? And listen, the man is a magician, and you know, he's done an incredible job with not just myself, but other athletes. But I will say this, the relationship with Neil in the off season is a complete different relationship when it comes down to prep. And we literally will have this conversation because we have this, you know, beautiful coach friendship. And we also have, you know, a personal 19-year-old relationship from, you know, a 19-year-old kid meeting, you know, somebody he looked up to then becoming a friend, and, you know, and a massive part of me and my family's life. Yeah. But then also when prep starts, he puts that coach hat on and he literally will say, Flex, prep starts Monday. And I can tell you the changeover from one relationship to the next took about, it's always like flighty. It was always about a week before him and I would see eye to eye, because I go from having a lot of free reign and flexibility in the off season and traveling to then having this guy who's incredibly disciplined in his way. And there's no man on this earth that I would allow to talk to me the way he talks to me. But that's what I need. Yeah. He literally is a Sergeant Major. You know, he's got my respect. And, you know, he only wants the best for myself. You know, it's not like Neil is saying, hey, you know, when we win, make sure, you know, we take all these photos, and there's coaches out there like that.
Oh, yeah, I know.
They're more interested in the social media side of things and promotion. Hey, make sure you post this and that. You know what Neil does? Every single 7 wins I've had the Olympia in Vegas, I always have the after party. I always get my friends together. Fucker goes to bed. He's exhausted, and I don't see him for a couple of days. He literally puts so much into his athletes that when it's all over and said and done, he just wants to he's a hermit. He has to condition himself to you know, get over the stress aspect, because I've seen him work. He thinks of every different variable. What can happen? Maybe this, let's do this. And obviously he's very conservative in his mindset, but also we're very, you know, old school, where we don't do anything drastic. What you ate in the off season is the same you eat going into prep. There's no fucking shit blowed in. There's no, whatever the new craze is that these kids are doing right now, you know. We do a little depleting, and we do a carbon up, but it's with the same foods as we done. So there's never an issue with carbon up. When there was, I've always had issues with digestion, but there's never that kind of thing. But anyways, there's, you know, like the component of us training together. If I was to really say one thing about kind of an earlier question that you asked me, I would say that I feel like I let Neil down a little bit with how we had this grand plan of things, you know. He'll always tell me that we've achieved so much more than we ever envisioned. But again, when I say that, when we achieved it, we put the bar up higher and higher, and Neil has devoted a massive part of his life to me, you know. He really has. And, you know, that's something that will never be seen. I can only tell it. But he truly believed that I could have won. And, you know, it's kind of sad, if anything, that we were never able to see that come to you know, to life. But we've lived also a very beautiful life. You know, we've both come over here from the other side of the world. And we've seen things, we've done things, and I made sure that when I was signed on companies, Neil was also the man that came with the athlete. So, and you know, and he's never been in the background, again, being that coach. His results speak for themselves, his work speaks for themselves. So he's a benefit to every company we've ever signed to. And again, he's been an incredible coach. So that's pretty much the only thing I would say in terms of, because sponsors and stuff like that, in my contracts, all my contracts state I don't even have to compete. So, you know, nobody can say any of that nature. You know, my drive was to fulfill this destiny for myself. But again, that void of not competing is now being replaced by something just as scary and just as exciting. To be continued.
I just want to end this by saying it's been my privilege to watch you grow up, because I think I met you were like 20 years old, 21. You know, I couldn't even understand you. Your accent was so thick. And
Shut up. Laughing in the back.
I'm not even sure if you were a pro yet. I think you had won your class at the British, but you hadn't won the overall yet. Can't remember what the situation was, but anyway.
Right. I remember.
But I remember seeing you. I think I was at your first pro show, and luckily I've been able to watch you over the years, a career, you know, becoming a husband, a dad, a business owner, and all the contracts and everything. It's been a wild ride, man. I'm glad I got to be a witness to this.
Thank you, man. I remember exactly where we were too.
I remember it was at the Olympia. It was at the Olympia, like in a food court area in the expo, wasn't it?
It was at an expo. I believe it was the Olympia. Yes, I think it was with Chris Gethin or Gary Phillips.
Yeah.
And they sneaked me in to the expo.
Yeah.
And I think you were walking past and you had the camera out straight away. You were like, oh, I can't remember exactly what you said, but you were talking about my calves.
Yeah,
and then we done a little bit of a calf pause. I don't know if you can find that photo, but it would be a great overlay if you did. But yeah, it was a great moment meeting you, because obviously, you know, you got to remember too, Ron, I came to this country as a fan of the sport. I consumed everything. And as I said, I feel like I'm a real student of the game. So when I got into officially meeting a lot of the, you know, the people I can now call friends, you know, from the outside, from the other side of the world, and seeing magazines and seeing the athletes in them and seeing the people who wrote the magazines, I was a fan of everything, and to meet, yeah, you know, guys like Peter McGough then, who became very close and near and dear in my life. And obviously you have written, you know, countless amount of articles on me over the years. I just want to say, you know, thank you very much, mate. You've always been nothing but a class act every time I've seen you, and obviously gone out your way. And, you know, even with this interview right now, you were so excited to do this. And genuinely, I'm, and I love that though, you know, because I've done a lot in the sport. And, you know, when I made the announcement that I was retiring, and obviously I had the baby, you know, it was just like, that chapter's closed.
Yeah.
And, you know, I could quite easily, like, kind of dive into the mentality of wow, it's done. But I look at it as an exciting ride. I've achieved some incredible things. I've also, you know, gone through some shit, and I'm real, right? I'm not like this fake Instagram guy who just posts a highlight reel. I've talked about my failures. In fact, I would dare to say that I fail more times than I've won in some cases, because but I went for it. And I think the biggest message that I want to tell people in life is, you know, don't live in regret. Go for things, you know. Is it going to be scary? Absolutely. But you're thinking about changing your life. You think changing your life is easy? You know, as I said, I left everything that I knew in the UK to come over to this country. I knew one person, and I went through the whole, you know, sleeping on a sofa and putting myself in positions that, you know, again, as I said, I look back as a different guy, but I knew mentally that I was going to achieve this. And now everything that I came to this country on, you know, and I came here with hundreds of dollars that I saved my ass off with. I was down to literally the last, you know, it sounds like the Rock story in a sense, but I was down to my last bit of money.
$7.
Yeah. I would say it was $6.50.
Wow.
And then I get that call from Peter McGough that they wanted to, you know, sign me, and it really, it gave me that boost where I was starting to doubt myself slightly. Is this going to work? Because when you're on rations and you're kind of, you know, scraping the last piece of tuna from the corner of the can to, you know, just get through hunger. It was just that kick, and it wasn't that much money, but it was enough to be like, wow, I've been seen, I'm on the radar, and now I can really live up to the expectations, and pressurize myself to level up. So, you know, as you said, you've been a part of many of them articles that were written from you over the years, from, you know, Flax, muscular development, even the Gaspari stuff that we've done. So I really appreciate the words and you saying what you've done, because again, I think you've had a really good seat from where you've sat, seeing this journey from the very time that I met you. Now it's just been nearly 20 years, mate.
Yeah. Wow. Time
20
flies.
years. 20 years. I know.
Oof, time flies. It's hard to believe, man. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Flex, for taking the time to do this. You know, you answered a lot of questions I've been wanting to ask you since that announcement in May. So it was well worth the wait, and wishing you the very best with everything, family, business, every few projects you can't even talk about yet. And I definitely am coming there in December. Definitely save me a spot, a parking spot. I'll be right there.
You can park in my spot. How about that?
Cool. I'll probably be taking an Uber anyway. But man, thank you so much, Flex. It's been a privilege talking to you again. All right. Thanks everybody for watching Ronline Report with Flex Lewis, the greatest 212 bodybuilder of all time. And we'll see you next time.